There we go. We're live. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, lovely people. I was so excited to have you back, Jeff. And for some people, I don't think there can be that many. For some people that might have missed you in the first two interviews, can you do a super quick introduction? And then we'll be sharing the links to the other two interviews in the comments below so people can watch it back and we don't have to go through the whole introduction again. But just a brief introduction. Who are you and why are you here?
Well, good morning to you. Good evening to me. I'm in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, so in the middle of the heartland of the United States.
Yeah.
Marie, great to be on Loving Life After Loss. Appreciate all you've done to just promote so much positive vibes throughout the universe. I've really enjoyed following you. I've enjoyed following you and your passions to share stories. But yeah, just in a nutshell, real short version. Age 50, top of the mountain, accomplished everything I set out to do when I was graduating from college. And then, like it happens to all of us, eventually something horrific happens, whether it's yourself or somebody you love. It's simple math. With as humans, we're destined to die. But I got a call that our oldest son, Seth, was found dead in a hotel room, overdosed heroin laced with fentanyl, which now fentanyl is a global problem. And here in the United States, we had 110,000 die last year alone from opioid overdose, which fentanyl was, I think, 85% of the deaths. So that really slapped me in the face at age 50, that maybe I didn't have everything figured out as well as I thought I did. And it threw me into a descent into the abyss, as I call it.
Yeah.
I have two other boys, Roman and Ian. They were 15 and 13 when Seth died. Seth was 23. And my wife and I, for about a year and a half, just drank. I mean, I was an alcoholic before this, 5 days a week, but I was what was called a functional alcoholic. So I could run my investment company and, from the outside looking in, everyone thought I would have everything under control. In reality, I didn't. And 14 months into his death, I finally realized I needed to quit drinking. I primarily did it to support my wife because I noticed, her life was falling apart as well.
Yeah.
And so I made the decision one morning, looking in the mirror after a night of drinking. That was it. Time to grow up. Time to be a man, I guess, time to step up, do all the cliche things that you need to do. And so at age 52, I quit drinking, and I've been drinking for 30 something years. And I'll be honest with you, it's been one of the easiest things I've ever done in my life.
Wow.
I don't think about it.
I love that you say that, because I think a lot of things are really, and I'm not absolutely not trying to play down addiction.
No, not at all.
But
not at all.
A lot of things are in our head, the addiction really starts in the head and not so much in the substance. Not always, there's a huge range, obviously, but yeah, I love that you say that when you
can tell yourself, tell yourself anything you want to tell yourself. So if I want to believe it's a disease and I'm held prisoner to some genetics that my great grandfather had, that has nothing to do with me today, then fine. I'm a prisoner of addiction. Or I could tell myself it's a choice and I just don't want to drink. And I don't play any further than that. I don't call myself sober because it implies I'm in some type of struggle or fight. And I just make it simple. I just don't drink today. Now, tomorrow, I don't know. I'll get to tomorrow first, and I'll wonder, I'll worry if I'm going to drink tomorrow. But right now I don't worry about it. I thought my approach would help my wife, but it didn't. And in June of 29th of 2021, she died of alcohol abuse. She was 46. We were married 21 years. So in a spate of 5 years, I went from ascending the pinnacle of life to being at the bottom of the abyss, in a very quick period of time, in a time when you should be, enjoying the fruits of your labor, in your early to mid 50s. And as you well know, I mean, life isn't fair. Death never happens at a good time. It's sometimes not in the right order. I went son, wife, mom, and then my dad, who almost died this year. He's alive. He's doing actually tremendous for what happened to him.
I'm so glad to hear.
But yeah, so so mine was like absolute back order. Normally it's your dad, your mom, maybe your wife, and never your child. And so I just present this living undeterred mindset as that's what it is. It's a mindset. And I have 3 kind of pillars I've developed of the living undeterred mindset. And it's taken me, death has opened up doors that I never would have opened up had these things not happened to me. And again, they didn't happen to me, Marie, they happened for me. That's the distinction. That's the distinction, how I look at everything in my life. And I'm not religious. It shocks people. I'm agnostic. I'm just comfortable not knowing. I'm comfortable for my inspiration coming from within, not above. And I've always been that way. I've never been tortured myself trying to impress somebody by living a good life. I just live a good life because it's the right thing to do. It's not that complicated for me. Being a good human is just part of being a good human. It's nothing celestial about it. So
I love that you say that. I just want to quickly highlight that, that whole, we really need to simplify things a lot more. Things are so overcomplicated anyway. There are so many layers to everything, and spiritual beliefs or not. I have very strong spiritual beliefs, and I always say to people, I'm not forcing my beliefs upon you. This is just the way I live. This is just what works for me. And I see that in you too. And there's no judgment. There's no right or wrong. It's just right for me and right for you. And it needs to be right for everybody else. So I just love that we talk about.
Let me not really correct you, but let me further clarify what I mean by I'm not religious is simply that I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. And when people say, I had a conversation with a lady after a presentation where she cornered me and asked me, do you believe in God? And I, my first kind of laughable joke is always, which one? There's 3,000 of them.
I love it. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's like, I don't know which one to believe in because there's too many of them. So she's all, then she said Jesus Christ and stuff. And that's fine. I'm the last person on the planet to tell anybody what they should worship or believe in. But I just said, at the end of the day, when my head hits the pillow, I just try to be a good human. And if I'm rewarded for that in the form of heaven after life, then so be it. If I'm punished, then that's not a God that I would worship anyway. So I'm comfortable in my own skin. I think my story isn't about faith in regards to a religious connotation. It's faith in regard to humanity and faith in the regard to love and compassion and empathy. I mean, and that's what drives me. And at the end of the day, if there really is all that everyone likes to think there is, then so be it. Then that person or thing or entity or female should reward me, right?
I really agree with you. And also, just as you, I don't want to make that about religion or spirituality.
Right.
But I'm grateful that you shared that. So I want to bring you back to what you said, living undeterred, because you did an entire tour around that. And as I said, for those who missed out on that part, we'll be sharing the last two interviews we had in the comments below. But I would love to hear some highlights. How on earth was the tour? Give us highlights, give us, you said there's so much in the pipeline. I was so excited to hear from you and get a bit more of an update and what's to come next. So share a bit about that.
Yeah, I came up with this, and I have attention deficit, which is a whole part of my story, especially with adults with kids, is we got to stop calling these things disorders and giving them pills and all that. Attention deficit's been one of the reasons why I do what I do. I don't sit still real well. I don't overthink things too much. I'm very impulsive. And so I decided in the midst of, writing a book and doing my podcast and doing my advocacy, I just felt like I wasn't doing enough. And you probably get that too, Marie. You're like, well, I like what I do, but is there more for me to be doing? And so I just came up with this idea. I saw this guy rode his bike across the state he lived in, raising money for breast cancer for his wife. And I thought, well, if this guy can do that, maybe I can do something at a higher level. So I went out the next day and bought a brand new 34-foot RV, got it fully wrapped with the Living Undeterred US tour. And I thought, I'm going to go around the United States with my two boys for 95 days and raise money, which I didn't do, raise awareness, which I did, and bring attention to these issues. And there was no downside other than the fact it was, financially, it didn't go the way I planned financially, but I'm undeterred. I'm not going to let money be the barrier why I don't change lives. And, I may not have raised what I wanted to do in 95 days, but I certainly will in 95 years. So give me more time,
Yeah. And I believe, like, from what I know and the discussions that we had before, that the main thing was to raise awareness, and the money has been an absolute bonus on top, and maybe pay for the tour as well. But, the awareness part was certainly one of the most important things. And I believe you've done a lot of that. I've been following you like almost daily. I saw your posts on LinkedIn, and, the updates and the amazing connections that you had. You know, I just really loved watching the tour and what you did. So,
well, the reason I bring the money up, Marie, let me fix that, because that sounds a little selfish. All the money was going into my nonprofit, which is the Living Undeterred Project, which is to help kids make better choices in difficult situations. And the initial plan was to raise $1 million after expenses, and then dole out 50% to the state partners and 50% to my nonprofit. Well, yeah, I raised like $30,000. And I didn't have any corporate, no one decided to sponsor me. I didn't get any sponsorships, no corporate, but I just kept going undeterred. I just kept going. And most of it was my own money I put into it. And I tell this story not for sympathy or people to send me money, but just to show you what it's like to have a living undeterred mindset. I can't be stopped. And money is a barrier for a lot of reasons why people don't do things. A lot of their passions, their startup companies, their great ideas don't get going because they're waiting for money to come in. Yeah. I just told myself I wasn't going to do that. I woefully underperformed from that respect. So when I say money, it wasn't like money to enrich myself. It was money I could give back to our nonprofit partners. But the reality is I raised a ton of attention and I brought a lot of awareness to these issues. And mental health is a big deal right now. And I know in the United States, there's 800 Americans a day die from overdose, suicide, and alcohol. You know, and it's so unnecessary. Yeah. It's so preventable. But what we're doing is also very predictable. We are just a very hopeless people right now. We don't have a lot of inspiration and motivation, and we seem to be drawn to toxic news and angry conversations and arguments. And it just seems like, you know, unless you really look hard, it's hard to find really inspirational stories, because most of what's out there is pretty negative. And for kids today, what a tough time to be a kid. I mean, it's hard, you know, with all the social media and the bullying and the imposter syndrome and gaslighting and parents always arguing over things. It's like, it's tough. I didn't grow up with that. I didn't grow up with any of that, you know? So how do we help kids navigate through this? That's a good question.
You know, with social media, like one thing is said and it's there, it's just there and you can't take it back anymore. And it will, I want to bring something to the table here, Jeff, because we had a bit of a chat in the forefront before we came live here. And I shared something with you that I want to share here as well, because I'd really love to hear some input from you and what you've brought onto the tour and from the tour. Because I shared a fear with you that I had that I haven't really shared openly yet. And I'm more than happy to talk about it because it is confronting. It's very personal to me. But I also believe by sharing it, people out there who hear that realize they're not alone with this. And for me, it's the fact that I had a lot of anxiety coming up over the last few days. This is something that's super new to me. I have never dealt with anxiety in my life. I was always a very strong, confident woman. Not that confident people can't have anxiety, but it was something that was new to me. And it was around my boys, and it was around the fact that I'm here in the forefront, and I'm the founder of Loving Love After Loss, and I'm running, retreats and programs and healing journeys and helping everyone heal and shift their mindsets and turn their lives around. And we are very, very successful with the work that we're offering. So I love what I do, and I'm very passionate about it. However, there are two boys in my house, and they are very protective of me. They've really stepped up in that protector mode, which I love. But it comes with that fear of, do they tell me that they are fine to protect me, or are they really okay? Because everything I hear from raising awareness around mental illness, raising awareness around mental health, because I also say it's so important to distinguish that. We are so used to saying, we'll talk about mental health, and sometimes we actually mean the mental illness. So it's really, for me, it's as simple as mental illness is where I pick them up from, and mental health is the destination. And for me, it's that whole thing. Are my boys really okay? And how do you ever know? Did you know with Seth that he was going through stuff? And when did you know that it was really dangerous, or did you at all? These are really confronting questions, and these are really confronting feelings and emotions that I'm dealing with at the moment. And I believe that you and I are just the right people in the right time to actually get to the table and talk about it openly. I'd love to hear your input on that. When do you know that your kids are okay, or do you ever?
Yeah, I've got so many different roads to go down with what you just said. Well, your feelings, first of all, are justifiable. I'd be concerned too. My two youngest now are 21 and 19. I still think about popping a pill at a party to stay up till 3 a.m. and have it laced with fentanyl. I mean, that terrifies me. So I understand what you're going through. Seth, yeah, I knew. I mean, at 16, he was given Adderall. At 17, I got a call from a parent at school that he was selling his Adderall at school. So I knew there was issues, starting with, addiction, substance use. And I told him one time, I said, son, you're going to be dead or in jail. And I was right. It was prison and then death. My wife's death was very predictable too. And so when people talk to me and they'll say, well, it's so tragic what you went through, and I always have to correct them. It's not tragic. Tragedy is a baby drowning in a pool, or your parents getting hit by a drunk driver. That's tragedy.
Yeah.
Mine was unfortunate and unnecessary, preventable and predictable. That's not tragic. So I really appreciate people's sympathy, but I'm really looking for empathy. And I can spin that into inspiration, but I want to go back to something you said, because a couple things I thought about is this raising awareness issue. And you're right. Raising awareness is a catchphrase now, but it's a dead horse. Literally, it's a ship that has sailed. Raising awareness doesn't work. If it did, then the fact that we all know what fentanyl is, we'd see the numbers going down.
Yeah.
So what does work then? Well, I think it's obviously we have to keep raising awareness. I'm not telling people not to. I don't think that it's working. I think bringing attention to is the new raising awareness. And the difference is this: raising awareness is in your face. It's a little more assertive, a little more aggressive. Pictures of my son, pictures of my wife, that's raising awareness. Bringing attention to is storytelling. It's being vulnerable. It's you and I sharing an intimate human conversation where people can hear us. And it's not so aggressive. It's more subtle. And it's probably the way we ought to be doing this. Well, you mentioned something I want to talk about too, is I saw a post where someone said, how to talk to your kids about drugs. How do you talk to kids about drugs? And there is the problem. You don't talk to your kids about drugs. You talk to your kids about making better choices under difficult situations. The drugs are a symptom. It's not the cause. The cause is trauma and pain and neglect and all the things that. So why in the heck do we have advice and give counsel to parents to talk to the kids about drugs? Again, that's a ship that sailed. We need to change the whole narrative of how we're approaching this. We want to talk to our kids about making good decisions, about autonomous behavior versus dependent behavior, about empowering them to feel confident about their making the right choices, that choices precede consequences. We have to stop talking about drugs. We have to stop talking about them. It'll become a non-issue if we change the demand. If we get to the kids when they're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 and show them, not teach them. That means as a parent, you quit drinking. You don't drink around your kids. You don't swear around your kids. You don't go out and cheat on your wife around your kids, or your husband. You live the life you want them to live by authentically living a genuine life. And that's how I think we can at least have a chance, because 50% of all kids' mental illnesses begin by the age of 14. So, by the time they're 14. So half of a child's mental illnesses start prior to the age 14.
Yeah.
So, do we want to raise awareness? Do we want to have more recovery, more rehab facilities, more, ways to teach people to not to drink? Or do we want to really bet the whole farm on this generation of kids coming up to fix the next 10 to 20 years? And I think that's where we need to be, empowering kids to make better choices. And if you talk to kids about drugs all the time, what's the difference between telling a kid not to touch the stove?
Yeah.
Or have them, I don't know. I just think it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy by accident, in that you don't want them to do these things. You have to talk about all the time. Now, just drugs is a set of decisions you're going to have to make among many other things. Drugs is one thing, But you got to go back to the risk response patterns. Why are you making poor decisions in the first place? You know, and that starts at a really young age. You really got to learn. And this is what we're developing at Living Undeterred. And this is one of the results of the tour, was this new program that we're building, an online app that'll be for adolescents, driven by adolescents, researched by adults, but driven by adolescents. So social proof means kids will listen to kids. They won't listen to you and me. They won't listen to teachers. They won't listen to police officers.
I was just hearing that.
Yeah. So we want to design, and I got a name, but I can't announce it yet. We want to design a free online mental health planning service for kids. It's not a one fix all. It's not something that's going to correct everything, but it's going to empower kids to identify how they can make better choices.
Yeah.
And then there's a system in there that's repetitive. That's, you know, you'll learn something becomes a habit after so many days of repetition. So, but it's got to come from kids. I think that's, you know, if I sit down and talk to my son about drugs, it's a whole different thing than if their peer group starts talking about better choices.
I'll be getting
I think that's more effective.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It sounds incredible, really. So who have you got to support you in this?
Right now, I got one full-time staff person I hired this week. Her name's Emily, and she's going to be running the company that I started. I just incorporated it last week. It's new. It's been in my head for a couple of years. The tour really validated the things that I thought I wanted to focus on and expose the areas I didn't want to spend a lot of time on. You know, I only have so much to do to contribute to society. I can't be in the recovery and the rehab. I can't be in the blah, blah, blah. I got to focus on one area where I think I can add the most value. I think that's kids. I think developing systems and processes to empower kids to have more autonomy in their decision-making. I think talking about drugs will be something you can do at your leisure. It won't be mandatory.
Yeah.
Because we'll have headed it off way before then.
Yeah.
And it'll be a formality. That's my goal.
I
want to crush the numbers on the kids that are dying. I want to crush the numbers of the kids that are the next 5-year-olds out there. They're going to be the next alcoholics, the next addicts, the next destroyed relationships and failed businesses and taking their own lives at 17 years old. I want to destroy that number, you know?
Yeah. I just wanted to know, will your sons be involved in that app as well?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
How did they find it touring with you?
Pardon?
How did they find it touring with you?
Oh, anytime you spend a month in an RV with me, it's probably going to be a little chaotic. You know, I don't want to say with dad because I'm probably a little bit different just because the way I'm wired, I'm pretty intense. I'm hyper. I don't sit still real well. And that's just the way I've been. And so for my boys, it was great. I mean, Roman, we had such a different type of relationship than Ian and I. I'd say Roman and I are probably a little more intimate, a little bit deeper conversations, but Ian and I connected at a really different level too. It's unique to having, you know, parents can say that about every kid. There's a different relationship with each kid. But boy, what a way to bond. What a way to sit by the campfire on a Tuesday night and talk about Seth and talk about mom and talk about Seth's daughter, Brighton, and talk about, you know, my son Roman's boyfriend and my son Ian's girlfriend and just really.
Did their partners not come on a tour as well, or at least for a little while?
Pardon?
Did their partners not come on the tour as well?
No. My youngest son, Roman's boyfriend's a senior in high school. So his parents were a little more, you know, protective, which is understandable. And then Ian's in college. So yeah, his girlfriend came on the tour probably about a month's time's worth. She was with us in the RV and stuff. So
yeah.
But, you know, I left my driveway one person. I came back completely different person. A person I didn't envision I'd come back as. Yeah. You know, even better person than I was before I left. And I thought I was doing a pretty good job with my self-care prior to leaving. I did a lot better when I got back. And, you know, I met a lot of new people. I had a lot of people that really were excited about the tour, but for own personal reasons decided, they couldn't make it, whether it was too big a commitment or I don't know, but we lost some people on the way, and then we picked up some new people, and that's kind of what life's all about, right? You forge new friendships, you kind of move on from old ones, and you just keep going along, Yeah. It's evolution at its best. And it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people listening and watching, there's this narrative that as you get older, your circle of friends gets tighter and that funnel mine's expanding. I mean, I'm 56 and I have more close, intimate friends I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah.
You would think after losing a son and a wife, I'd just be a hermit. I'd be at home watching TV and calling all my negative friends in my head and having a big pity party, but that's not happening. It's not happening. I'm getting more people in my bubble.
Yeah. I love that about you, that you're so clear on that. It comes back to choices, life's happening for us. And even those people who don't believe that, even those people who think it's happening to me, you always have to choose how you respond to it. You always have to choose how you respond to it. And the choices that you made, Jeff, are just so incredible and such a shining example of turning something that was so predictable, preventable, and horrible for your family into something that is now really starting to crush those numbers, as you said, putting attention to something that needs to be addressed. And I love the fact that you say, let's not talk about drugs, let's talk about the solutions here, and I could not agree more with you. And I'd love to have you share a little bit more about what you said before. You left your driveway one person, you came back as a completely different person. What's changed for you? Can you share a bit more about that?
Yeah, when I was leaving for the tour, I kind of thought in my mind, okay, what's my assumptions? What are my expectations, so I can have something to compare with when I got back? And one thing I thought of is when I went around the country, that it'd be different. I'd go to one city on the West Coast and it'd be a set of, assumptions and biases, and I'd get over to the East Coast and it'd be a different thing. But every single stop, every single person I talked to, I felt like I was home in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Oh, wow.
What that told me was a couple things. One, Marie, is that underneath our skin, we're all the same. We cry, we laugh, we fear, we hope, we dream, we're devastated, we're ecstatic when something great happens. We're all the same. We just all look different, male, female, black, white, rich, poor, whatever. But we're really all the same underneath. One of my most impactful stops was at the Portland Refugee Support Center in Portland, Oregon, and with Syrian refugees from Syria, the Muslim Syrians coming over to the United States. And in sitting with them, speaking with them, I have to think to myself, not only do they have the same human emotions, but they're Muslim in America and they're refugees, and a lot of them don't speak good English. And there was one kid about 13 there, sitting right in the front, just an awesome, awesome young man. And he was telling me how he was getting bullied just 30 minutes before he came into the workshop out in the park. So two teenage kids out there on skateboards were making fun of what he was wearing and what he looked like. And he was in tears, sitting there, 13, sitting in front of me thinking, I go, my white sons in Iowa never had to deal with this. Sure, they buried a brother, but they didn't have to come over here from another country, leaving, a literal country on fire, with a lot of relatives over there that aren't here anymore. They're gone. And then come here as a young man and then be bullied about what you look like and what your belief structure is. And it's just, so every time I went around the country, I just felt like I was at home. I just really did. It really humbled me. It just was it was a life altering experience. I really think every human being at one point in their life, and I know with religious people, they have, meccas and missions, and you have these, things that you subscribe, but that's more done for your religion. I mean, something that you're doing for other people, like go on a 2-week tour around the United States, not sightseeing, talking to people, just talking to people, go to cafes, go to parks, pull up a chair hey, do you want to talk? I want to share something with you, and that's what the RV was. I call it a mental health magnet. It just opened up conversation. People would walk up and they'd start talking. I'm like, this is what this tour is turning out to be. But it started out about me wanting to tell my story. Yeah. And it turned so much more into a we narrative, not a me narrative,
I can
so beautiful. It was beautiful. It was just every human being ought to do this.
Your RV really stood out and really drew attention, not just by how it was branded and how it was really obvious, but also by the people that came out of it. I want to say, those people like you, like your sons, like people that supported you on the tour, just really incredible. Just that openness and that willingness to listen, to connect, to listen to stories, to share stories, and to draw attention to the things that are important, as you said.
And now when I see somebody on the street, I see a story. I see a human being that's got somebody in their family. Maybe it's them, maybe it's their kids, maybe it's their mom that has a mental health issue, a challenge, addiction, substance use disorders. Maybe they were sexually abused as a child, maybe they just lost their job. So I look at it's amazing. Literally at the grocery store, every single human being, all I see is a story. I don't see color. I don't see sex. I don't see money. I just see a story. And that tour did that to me. It just reframed my whole lens I view my life from in a great way. And, again, this is coming from somebody who's, agnostic, which is really kind of special. Yeah. I'm not driven by anything other than just the beauty of life, how special it is we're here. Yeah.
I really love this. I cannot wait for your app to come out. Have you got any sort of rough time or idea that
I have a name picked out? It's a little catchy. We have a video coming out here in probably a month. It's a graphic video. In other words, it's one that you got the hand drawing pictures in front of you, voiced by adolescents, to get kids to watch a short video and then take a quiz. And then from that, we will work on building out the app. But I have to get this kind of a beta test. I want to make sure that I'm not missing something. That when I do this, I got kind of one chance to make sure I do this right. So I have to make sure I test it with kids so they can come back and say, well, I can tell that an older man set this up because we don't think that way. So it's like, I want to make sure kids give me
volunteers.
Yeah, I do actually. It's on my list right here. It's like my fourth one down.
I'm going to chat to them if they are happy to, because my older son in particular is very much into tech, and he's already developed his little following, and he's got more followers than me on YouTube. I'm saying. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. And so I want this to be something where kids understand that it's going to take some work, like anything good does in life. And we live in this fast-paced society today where that's what I'm fighting up against. Kids want 30-second TikTok videos. They don't want to watch a 7-minute video on mental health. They want to take a pill. They don't want to go to the gym for 2 months and work out. They just want to lose weight overnight and still continue all the bad habits that they do. So I'm up against really poor habits that kids have today, poor prioritization of what they do with their time. But I think if I can get a handful of kids that are really buy into this, I think I can change their lives. And if they can become raving fans for us and start doing testimonials and saying, hey, this works. And all it's going to take is some 16-year-old to have one of their friends take their own life at school or die of an overdose. And then they're going to say, okay, maybe this guy is right. Maybe I'm on that 50% on the side of the fence where this is going to be a problem. I want to head this off now, But right now they don't have any options. Right now it's, what do you do if your son comes to you and says, I'm really struggling with things? You're an average parent out there. You know what you do? You call somebody. What did you do? And then they say, well, my son goes to a therapist. Okay, go to a therapist. That's 1 hour a week. Really? Yeah. That's the way we're going to help this kid, to send him to, or let's go send them to a doctor so we can diagnose a problem, not highlight their strengths. Let's diagnose a weakness and let's give them a pill
Yeah.
And that pill will fix their problem.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, so we have pills, we have diagnosis, we have short attention spans, negativity. I mean, I got a tough road ahead of me to build this thing to be productive. I really do. But I know going into it that if I want to make the difference I want to make, it's not going to be easy. You know, it's going to be very difficult to do. But if I get a handful of kids that really believe that they could be the ones that change their own generation.
Yeah.
So these statistics can start just at some point going in the right direction. They're all going in the wrong direction, all of them.
It's incredible. I am so grateful that we connected here today and that you shared what you shared. I'm so grateful for the tour that you went on, and also seeing you coming back as such a different person. You know, I've really watched your entire shift, your tour. The posts that you put out there were really, really important. And I love that you sprinkled your personal posts in between, like, you know, learning how to braid.
I know. And I
hair.
was reminded, Jeff, that's not braiding, that's a ponytail. Then you sent me the video.
I was like, no, I'm not going to say anything, but there were other people who made those comments. I'm like, it's so funny. I have 2 boys, so there's no braiding. I can braid my own hair, but I don't do that.
I'll learn how to braid. I'll learn how to braid eventually, but
she's absolutely gorgeous, Brighton. It was so beautiful that you shared that. Jeff, I want to thank you for not just for being here, but for everything that you do. I know that sounds very generic and very small when I say it that way. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I think the work that you do is so freaking necessary these days. Where the world's come to, you know, I don't want to over dramatize things, but it really is what you said. People are looking for a quick fix. People are not wanting to put the time in for changing habits, changing things that we need to change in our lives. So I think it's incredible, the app that you're about to develop. I cannot wait to see it. I would love for my sons to be part of that. I'll definitely have a chat to them about it. And
that'd be great.
And I just want to ask, is there anything that you would like to share before we conclude this interview? Anything?
Yeah, I would like to say something. I would like to say that people that watch me talk, watch what I do, admire my strength, they have to remember that I am no different than they are. I am them. I'm nothing special. I'm just a dad from Iowa, you know, but I've found ways to retrain my brain, to reframe my life, to look at whatever life throws at me as opportunities and not a curse or punishment. And by the simple reframing of my lens I view life from, I've helped myself survive something traumatic, as have you. And a lot of your success where you're at, and we fight daily, Marie, you and I do, and people see the good stuff they don't see behind the scenes, but you've learned to reframe and you're paying it forward. But in the meantime, you're helping yourself. And so everything I'm doing, although I know I'm helping people and I know you're helping people, but at the end of the day, we're helping Jeff and Marie. And that's, so I have to do this. I have to do this because my sons cannot lose a dad after all this. They just can't. They can't. And they won't unless something accidental happens.
Yeah.
But that's what I would tell people is I'm nothing special. I'm average. I'm just, you know, I think anyone watching this, that one thing I'll say too, Marie, before I end, is that people like to compare grief. So they may say, well, gosh, I know Jeff and Marie went through some pretty bad things, but my only pain is my cat I put down last week. Well, you know what? That's equal to my pain. It's your pain. It's unique to you. Let's don't compare grief. Let's don't feel like because you haven't buried a child, you don't have a right to feel terrible.
Yeah.
Your pain, whatever it is your pain.
Yeah.
And the intensity of it is just as strong as mine.
Yeah.
But it isn't the pain that defines us, it's what we do with it. It's our suffering.
You speak straight to my heart. I'm so with you on that. And I always say comparison doesn't heal us. You know, we need to create a community that helps us heal. And I think that's the exact point. You know, the shortcut of this entire interview is that we need to create a community that supports the healing and not the grief, not the pain, and not the drugs and whatever else is out there. Comparison is not helping us heal. So I'm with you on that. I'm here to create that community with you and everybody else out there. If you wonder what you can do, create that community, be that person, show up as that person that you needed when you needed help, and start acting as that person. I think that's the absolute simplest way to put it. And Jeff, thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for being here the third time now. And I really cannot wait to see the outcome and see the results of everything that you've put in there. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. And thank you everybody for watching. Please do share this video, because it is really important that other people get to hear the story too. And last but not least, please share what your favorite takeaway was from today in the comments below. I'd really love to hear them. I'm sending you so much love. Thank you so much for being here today, Jeff, and have an amazing day.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Bye for now, everyone.